We shall chant mantra 1, please. Om Isavasyomidagu sarvam yatkincha jagatyam jagat tena tyaktena bhunjitha magridha kasya svidhanam. Om Isavasyomidagu sarvam yatkincha jagatyam jagat tena tyaktena bhunjitha magridha kasya svidhanam. Om Sarvam, all this Yatkinchat Jagatyam Jagat, whatsoever in the Jagatyam Jagat, the changing universe, is pervaded by the Lord, Isha Vasya. Tena Tyaktena Bhunjitha. By renouncing that Bhunjitha, may you enjoy Magridha Kasya Svidhanam. Covet not anybody's wealth. Do not covet anyone's wealth. This is the title to the verse, to the mantra, is the path of renunciation vis-a-vis meditation, the path of renunciation, meditation. As we understand the style of the Shastras, the Guru or the Upanishadic Gurus, they cater to the highest bracket of students. So in a classroom, you would find obviously students of different caliber. And their objective was that they did not want to delay the realization of the advanced spiritual seekers. So they wanted to cater to their realization first. So the style is they came from top to bottom. So the first mantra is designed for those who are able to renounce and meditate. I do not know how many amongst us are able to renounce and meditate. That is not for me to decide. That is for you to decide. But this verse is meant for the highest of Satwik spiritual seekers. When the Sattva is most predominant, you exhibit that Sattva through renunciation. You exhibit that Sattva through introvertedness. You exhibit that Sattva by sliding into that meditative state. More often than not, you're with yourself, by yourself, within yourself. That is a sign of getting Satwik. So don't worry if you are showing symptoms of wanting to be lonely. Nothing wrong with you. Don't get any checkup done. Everything is fine. It's not that anything wrong with you. Now, as the style of the scriptures is they start the text by chanting the mantra Om. So perhaps even before you describe the truth, that very symbol, the very syllable Om in itself is the highest tool or the symbol or the idol to represent the ideal of realization. So the Om is the highest symbol to represent God. There is no greater symbol than Om to get you to Godhood. So therefore, the first thing the text starts saying Om. So when you say Om, which means represents the waking state of consciousness, U represents the dream state of consciousness, represents the deep sleep state of consciousness. So Om represents that pure consciousness which pervades all these three states. I repeat, A, U, all put together is Om. A is the waking, U is the dream, represents the deep sleep. So the very word Om represents that consciousness which pervades the three states, which is the waking, dream, and deep sleep. And it is not just permeate, it is beyond the three states, it is in the fourth state. So the mere chanting of the mantra Om reminds us of the fourth state, and it is our primary objective and purpose to get to that goal of realization. So our effort, our meeting today, whenever we meet, is to remind each other to get to that goal of self-realization, which is just represented by the symbol Om, which is the very theme of the Upanishads. Now, the first mantra is considered the most potent mantra in the entire scriptures. That's something we are all very blessed to have had, having got the opportunity even to examine something which is so, it's like the Kohinoor diamond of all diamonds. Considering it is the best, it is the top. There's nothing greater than this. So it's the most potent. And keeping to the tradition, the Shastras, whatever tradition the Shastras follow, this text gives all the four parts or padas. You can call it in Sanskrit, pada means various parts, which constitute the content of the Upanishad. I hope you're following. The first mantra, the tradition is, in the very opening mantra, they give, what do they give? Whatever the Upanishad constitutes, the entire content of the Upanishad is spelled out in the very first mantra. That is the tradition. So the entire content of the Upanishad is spelled out in the first mantra, and the content of the Upanishad is literally split into four padas or four parts. So the four lines of the mantra, so they're declaring the contents of the text in the very beginning. The entire content of the rest of the 17 verses, the total 18 verses, is spelled out in the very first mantra. And that is in four lines. Line 1, line 2, line 3, line 4. Line 1 is the declaration of the truth. There are some people who think ahead of the Guru also. Never mind, which is good. So the first line is the declaration of the truth. What is the declaration? All this Isavasya, idagam sarvam, all this is truth, he says. Sarvam. Sarvam is the entire world, is the truth. Is Isha. Isha means the Lord. But today people have taken the name and created a proprietary around this name. Who has written this Isavasyopanishad? Any proprietary? Any owner? Any name? And people have just borrowed a name and creating a proprietary over it, an ownership over it. I have nothing against it. I'm saying nobody knows who written this. So the word Isha is originated here. Isha means the Lord. Line 2 gives the explanation of the truth, which is whatsoever in the changing universe is pervaded by the Lord. So line 1 gives a declaration of the truth. Line 2 gives the explanation of the truth. Line 3 gives the path to the truth. What is the path to the truth? Tena tyaktena bhunjidha. May you enjoy through renunciation. By renouncing, you will enjoy. The real beauty of life is to renounce. We'll see that. And the line 4 gives the instructions to sadhana, practical instructions he gives. Now, all this is going to come in the text later, but he spells it out in the very first mantra. The first line is a declaration to the truth. Line 2 is the explanation of the truth. Line 3 is the path to the truth. Line 4 is the practical instructions to sadhana. And what's the practical instruction? Magridha kasya svidhanam. Do not covet anybody's wealth. Covet not. The coveting is worse than desiring. It's the worst of all faults. Desiring is what? Desiring is for something you do not have. There's so many things you do not have. It's impossible to have everything in life. You may have the capacity to buy anything, but still you cannot have everything in life. Impossible. So desire is for something you do not have, but coveting is for something which others have that you want. That is worst. So there's a pun on that word, do not covet anybody's wealth. There's a pun in that phrase. Magridha. Kasya svidha. Kasya. Whose wealth are you quoting? Whose wealth? That's the beauty. If you get into the true spirit of it, whose wealth are you quoting, man? So coveting is worse than kama, desiring. We desire something we do not have. We covet what others have. Example, Ravana. Personification of covet, he wanted Sita. How can you ever want what somebody has got? So, all this, he says, is pervaded by the Lord, pervaded by Brahman. Now, the moment we say idam is this always refers to the world. Tat means that which refers to Brahman. This is the standard usage of the terms. Idam, this refers to the world. Tat, that refers to Brahman. Idam, all this is pervaded by Brahman. All this, what is this that we know? All that we know, the world constitutes of moving and unmoving. Means living beings and inert matter. The inert and the insentient. There are things that has life, the things that don't have life. Everything is pervaded, is enveloped by the reality, by Brahman. Isavasya idagam sarvam. It's all nothing but the Lord. Everything is Lord, everything is Brahman. If you see anything other than Brahman, it is your own creation. There exists nothing than truth. And that's the highest. This is the declaration of the truth. So if you want to recognize truth, where do you go? Ishavasya idagam sarvam. Amitama, sarvam, it's all. Everything is the Lord. So if you have to recognize God, where do you go? Don't tell me go within. Huh? So I have ruled out that possibility of that brilliant answer you all possibly will give.
I was carry on, Guruji. I was going to say exactly. Sorry.
I know that. Okay, let me make it easier for you. How far would you go to recognize God, to perceive God, to see God?
I think there is no limit in that. There is no boundary in that, sir. So in a way, the answer to that question is, where would I go? I will actually not go anywhere. I will try my best through this knowledge to realize God within everything that is happening right now. So it's not about leaving and going to some other place. It's about seeing God in the existence of everything around me. Or yeah, seeing the divinity within everything that's happening. So it's rather than going, it's being.
Absolutely. That is what I was wanting to draw out of you. So it is not to go anywhere to see or experience or feel God. That God, that Isha is present everywhere. There is nowhere it isn't. Even if you were to look into a trash bin, trash also is Brahman. The trash bin also is Brahman. The one who puts trash also is Brahman. Everything is Brahman. So why do I have to go anywhere to see Brahman? You don't have to go anywhere. You don't have to go to any distance to feel that Isha. And yet we believe that there are certain places which are more divinized than other places. When people say that, I reserve my comments because I don't want to be offensive. I don't want to be disrespectful. Certain places are more divinized. I can't understand. What do you mean? That means there is a disparity in the manifestation of divinity? Partiality? Is sunlight less and more? It is all pervasive, isn't it? There may be no sunlight because you have put barriers, isn't it? But sunlight is all pervading. So if you don't attune to a divinity at a certain place, it's not that there's any less divinity, it's just that, just what? Amitama. Fill
I
in the
think
blank.
it is, no, we have no capability, no eyes to see. It's our ability to recognize, to see that presence is everywhere.
But when there are certain areas we do not see, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
You see God in a Satwik person, in a Satwik environment. Am I right?
Yeah. Yes.
You do not see God in a Rajasic or a Tamasic person, or in a Rajasic or a Tamasic environment. Am I right?
Yes, sir.
Like you can't go into a pub and feel a sense of divinity. Can you? No. You can't listen to those loud music and that lights and the dancing and all that atmosphere doesn't remind you of Brahman. But when you go to a Satwik place, it reminds you of Brahman. Am I right?
Mm-hmm.
If I'm only seeing God in a Satwik place, and if I don't see God in a Rajasic and Tamasic place, what does it mean?
It actually, that is a limitation then, right? Because we should
Whose
be
limitation? What limitation?
our limitation. It's a limitation within us, because the
You
Lord
mean my
exists.
limitation, no?
Mine, yes.
No,
My limitation.
you used our, therefore I slight clarification.
Yes, my limitations.
Our limitation, I agree with you, right?
Yeah.
So what does it mean? If you can't see God in Rajasic and Tamasic place, I hope you're getting what I'm asking. If you're only seeing God in a Sattvic place, that means you are Tamasic.
Right. Sorry. Yeah.
If you are seeing God in a Tamasic place, that means you are that much Sattvic.
Yes. Yeah. Yep.
Please understand and think and examine. A very powerful concept, a very powerful statement. If you see God only in a Sattvic place, that means you are Tamasic, because you can't see beyond it. You can't see God beyond a temple, church, or a mosque. You have to go to a particular place to invoke a divine feeling. That means I need that external stimulus to invoke God. That means I am that less developed. So whatever feeling I have is invoked externally, is triggered externally. It's infused externally. It is not coming from within, isn't it? But if I get that same feeling of divinity everywhere I see, in anything, in the worst of people, if I'm able to get the divine feeling, what does it mean? Without being infused by anything external, I'm able to draw it out from my inward inspiration. That means I am that much more Sattvic. And you magnify that to a perfect human being. What does a perfect human being see? He only sees Isha everywhere. A man of realization will see Isha everywhere. You will see divinity everywhere. A man of one who is not spiritual will only see divinity in pockets and places. So remember, why we are coming to this argument is God is not any less where you are right now. It's just that you lack the capacity to see it. It's not that God is any more in a particular place. It is only because the environment is lending its vision. It's just that your deficiency is being compensated with the external input. It only substantiates that. If I feel more spiritual in a temple, church, or mosque, it tells me how less spiritual I am. The real place to practice spirituality is outside the temple, church, and mosque, not in the temple, church, and mosque. So don't go about fooling yourself by making yourself feel more spiritual in places like those or moments like those. So Isha, all this, when he says everything is pervaded by the Lord, that's a matter of fact, man. It's a declaration of the truth. That is the truth. You got to see that truth. And what determines you to be able to catapult to that level, to be able to see the truth? It is your own sattva. That's why I said this mantra is meant for the highest of Satwik people. Everything, there's nothing that is other than Brahman. In fact, everything is Brahman. Brahman and world are one and the same, he said. Just like the mud and the pots are one and the same. Just like the gold and the ornaments are one and the same. I could have a gold biscuit or a beautiful gold necklace or a gold bangle or a gold pendant. What is the difference? Isn't it nothing but gold? It is gold only in the different name and a form. And why are you getting lost by the name and the form? In fact, another term used for the world. Harish, do you know the other term? That is, maybe am I going too fast, Harish, for you to capture?
Hariom Guruji.
Hariom, Harish. Am I going
No,
a little too fast for you?
No, Guruji, you're not.
I'm not.
No.
Okay. I felt very sorry asking you when you're trying to jot down something. Have you written down?
I just missed the last one. The last thing I heard was gold and ornaments are the same. They're only in a different name and form. That's what I last stopped.
No, you have written the right statement. So I caught you in the right note. Now, the different term used for the world is in the context. In fact, you've written it. It's called Nama Rupa. Nama is names, Rupa means forms. So everything in the world is nothing but names and forms. Nama Rupa. So a bangle or an anklet or a bracelet or a necklace, what are these? Names and forms, isn't it? If you are able to see the ultimate substratum, the substratum of all that is gold, you're not enamored and carried away by the different names and forms. So why are you developing raga and dvesha? What is raga and dvesha? You are having a like towards something, a dislike towards something, a love towards something, a hatred towards something, because you're caught up in the nama rupa. You say, oh, I don't like this bangle. I like that kind of a bracelet. You're falling for something in particular. You're hating something in particular. This is because you're caught up in the names and forms. But if you get to the substratum, what you rise above is the raga dvesha, the likes and dislikes, the love and the hatred. You transcend beyond it. You're not caught up in that. So what the verse in the very first word he says, the first line he says, is the world which is of names and forms, of plurality, is nothing but there's one common substratum which is one. Do you get that, Harish?
Yes, yes, Guruji.
The multitude of the plurality of things and beings which have names and forms, only one substratum which is Asia. No, the problem. So if the truth is that Brahman and world are the same, the problem is that we obviously don't see it, isn't it? So therefore we can't go about changing the world. What do you change?
We change ourselves.
You change your perception, you change your outlook, the way you perceive. You can't change that which is being perceived. The perceiver has to change. Perception has to change. It's going to be a very difficult pill to swallow, something that you hate the most. Paresh, can you think mentally, not aloud, huh? Think mentally that which you hate the most, or someone you hate the most, and just be reminded that that also is Brahman. That's the challenge these masters are expecting us to reach that state. Now we are caught up in the love and hatred. Why are you caught up in love and hatred? I'm just repeating so that you get the point I already made. You're caught up in love and hatred. Why are we caught up?
Because we are caught up in the names and forms through the likes and dislikes.
Which creates the likes and dislikes.
Which creates the likes, yes.
So we are caught up in the names and forms which create the likes and dislikes. And we are not seeing the reality. So how to get over the likes and dislikes which arise because we are caught up in the names and forms is to attempt to see the substratum, isn't it?
Yes.
The practicality of it, you will find it very demanding, isn't it?
Guruji, may I ask a question?
Yes, please.
Guruji, you made a very apt statement that the acid test is that can we see Brahman in everything? And when you said think of who you hate or what you hate, that's the biggest challenge. But what if it's come, Guruji, from hate in the past, it's now come to a neutral state. So there is no hate, but there is no love. It's just neutral. Is that a step forward?
That means you already attained Brahman. I suppose you only wanting this assurance, I know.
I mean, there's
that also you got it.
Neutral state. So heading towards a love state. So I'm just wondering that neutral state, as long as it's minus the love, I'm hoping that it would be one step up towards the next level of love in that.
No. See, why do you have to go any level beyond that? Brahman has got nothing to do with love or hatred. Brahman is neutral. It's alike to heat and cold. Has electricity got anything to do with heat or cold?
No.
Has it got to do with the heater or the refrigerator? No. So why have you to take a side towards love or hatred? You be neutral to everything in life. The best of things that's happening, the worst of things that's happening, you be neutral. Don't get involved, don't get carried away with it.
Yes.
So you already reached that state of Brahman. All right, Harish.
Yes, Guruji.
Now the question is how to apply it in all moments.
Yes.
That's
But Guruji, when there's a situation where in the past we hate something or somebody, and when we are in a neutral state today, when the worst of your thoughts are over, everything gets easier going forward. Because when you come to a neutral state, it's so much more easier to pass through that state of not being affected, being in a neutral state regardless, because we've gone through the worst acid test in the past and we've come through that layers of growth. So going forward with the neutral state, it's so much easier now than it was before.
Absolutely. Now you're experiencing it. You know it. What we mean is to change your perception. The object has not changed. The world has not changed.
Yes, correct.
What has changed is your outlook to it. Your perception has changed. So how different the very world is. Now, all what we could imagine is if I can actually see the world as Brahman, what could that be? To see everything as God. to see everything as Brahman pulsating. That's a staggering feeling. It's just we got to attune to that frequency, which is rather not easy, but we got to attune to that frequency as to what the text is saying. Everything is Brahman, nothing other than it. In fact, in the later mantras, he says, Na vijigupsate, there is no otherness. There is no hatred. There is no otherness, man. Everything is Brahman. So you create that feeling. You get into that spirit. All right, Harish.
Yes, Guruji.
Wonderful, right? Perfect.
Thank
Right. Yes. So many masters tried their own different unique ways of trying to convey the same thing. A Swami who used to reside in a temple, he was rudely woken up by his students. And he was alerted that as he was so unmindful in his sleep, his feet was touching the Lord, the linga. And what papam, how blasphemous, what a wrong thing. And they slightly, without, maybe they didn't disturb him, they shifted his legs elsewhere. Because he was not mindful what he was doing in deep sleep. His legs were almost kicking the idol. So they slowly shifted his legs elsewhere. The moment they did, another linga appeared there. Again, they shifted the leg elsewhere. Almost started doing yoga posture with his body without him being conscious of it. And wherever they shifted his leg, the linga appeared. Ramji, what do you learn from that, Ramji?
Namaste, Guruji.
Namaskar, sir.
Yeah, that means that the God is everywhere. Wherever you put your legs, the God is there. So there is nothing like at one place it is there and another place it is not there.
So the students learned a lesson that day. What? That God is everywhere.
Yes.
So he taught in his own way, in a very unique way, So, but if you look at the Shiva Linga, since we are talking of it, the other aspects we have always mentioned in different contexts. The Shiva Linga, if the best way to all of you will identify Shiva Linga with is Kala Jamun. I'm sure you would have had a few in the course of the few days that has rolled by, Ramji, please hold on. RPG is struggling to identify what that Kala Jamun is. I see. He, as if he has come from a different planet. What are you talking? You fellows don't know. Please talk in a language I understand. What, RPG?
Yeah, maybe we call it something else. I'm not sure.
Black Jamun. You Americans will call black jamun. We will call Kala Jamun. That's only difference. How else to describe Ramji that's sweet to him?
Well, it is gulab jamun which is black in color.
Oh, okay. Now I got it.
Now you got it.
It's all in names and forms. Yeah.
Correct. You
Yeah,
see,
all in names.
don't all
Thank
names
you,
and
Ramji.
forms. Correct.
Thank you, Ramji.
Right, sir. Now, if you take a gulab jamun, Ramji, and if you
Yes,
cut
sir.
the gulab jamun vertically, what shape you get?
Well, if the original gulab jamun is round, then you will get two halves. If
I'm
it is
not talking
vertical,
gulab jamun. I'm talking about a kala jamun, which is a shape of a Shivalinga.
Shivalinga. Okay. So when you cut
If you
it, you will get.
what do you get, sir?
You will get 2 half cylinders.
2 half
Means-
cylinders, which is the shape of an ellipsoid, isn't it?
Yeah.
So if you cut the linga vertically, you get an ellipsoid. If you cut the linga horizontally, you get a circle.
Yeah. Right.
So the ellipsoid represents the planetary movement, which is the world. The horizontal slicing is a circle, represents the Brahman. A circle has no beginning or no end. So an ellipsoid and a circle united in one form represents the world and Brahman in one. I hope you all are getting what I'm trying to convey here.
Yeah.
Shivalinga is what you see of a linga is only half. The other half of it is unmanifest, not seen. So, but if you take the whole linga, it's like an ellipsoid. I wish I can draw. I can't draw. Huh? How else to explain that, Ramji? You're following the
yeah, it is like oval shape, let's say.
Yeah.
And if you look at it, it is like the orbit around the Earth, or which is oval shaped.
Correct.
Or the orbit in which Earth moves around the Sun. That is also
the orbit.
shape.
Yes, the orbit.
Yeah.
So that eclipse or that ellipsoid represents the terrestrial. The circle represents the transcendental, and both in one form is nothing but the entire world is everything is nothing but spirit and matter, which is one. He's saying, whatever you see, so all this is pervaded by the Lord. That's the first statement. That is the declaration of the truth. Now, the second, he goes further ahead. Thanks, Ramji. And further ahead, he says, all this that you perceive, what is it that you perceive? What is the nature of that which you're perceiving? Lakshmi Ma? The changing universe. Yeah, please try now, Ma.
The matter?
No, what I'm asking is the universe that you see, what is the nature of the universe?
Changing.
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 Now, when you look out, let's say you're sitting in your balcony and you're looking around, you look at the trees, the flora, the fauna. Is the tree going through change?
Yeah. Yes.
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 Is everything around you going through change?
Yes.
Are you going through change?
Yes.
But the question is, do you see the change happening in the tree? Do you see the change happening in the environment? Do you see the change happening in you?
I do.
Oi, you're sitting in front of a tree and seeing a tree. Has the tree gone through any change in that half an hour or 1 hour?
Not. Oh, okay. No, not in that sense.
That's why I built the story. I said, you're sitting in your balcony and you're looking at a tree.
No, I don't see it.
You said that, see, that is what I'm saying. And yet, the truth is the tree is changing every minute, isn't it?
Yeah.
As I walked into the center this morning at 4:15, I saw there was a beautiful flower that was just blooming. It is still maybe 60% opened up. Now, I go back after a couple of hours. it has fully blossomed. It has gone through change. It is going through change every minute, every second. I'm going through change every minute, every second. Everything in the world is going through change. You agree, but you do not perceive the change. Why? Inherently, you're asserting the changeless in the change. Inherently, innately, ignorantly, you're asserting the changeless in the change. Because you don't perceive the change. Change is happening, yet you don't perceive it. Why? Because you're asserting the changeless in the change. Whatever you say, whatever you see, every split, everything is changing. Your perception is changing, everything is changing. But everything, as if everything looks changeless.
Guruji, can you use the rail, the train moving and the static platform analogy to explain this? Because you have to be in a change.
No, we don't have to go that far of that example you're referring. So I don't want to even mention of it because it'll just draw the thought process further away. What we are trying to establish is that there is change happening. Everything in the world is changing. But why is it that you don't perceive the change?
Because you're also changing.
No, I'm not talking about that. What we are trying to establish, because there is an inherent experience of the changeless, the change. The point we're making is you experience a certain changelessness even when the change is happening.
Yeah.
There is change, but you are the changeless reality. It's something like a person has been given maximum 2 weeks. Your health has deteriorated to such an extent, the cancer has gone beyond treatment. Give maximum 2 weeks to a month. Even when the person has been given an ultimatum that you will die, there's something in him makes him believe he's not going to die, isn't it? What is it in him that innately makes him feel that he's going to die? He's not going to die. What makes him feel is that the self in him is neither born nor is it dead. So the self in him makes him feel immortal. Something tells him that the doctor is wrong. Possible there's a mistake. Possible my report must have been shifted with somebody else. Maybe I should go for a second opinion. I should do this and do that. He'll believe that there is no truth in it. Innately you're asserting yourself to be the changeless. Isavasyam idagam sarvam yat kinchat jagatyam jagat. The first 2 lines. Asha ma, samajh rahe ma? Yeah, please try now. Looks like there's some hiccup there. Yeah, now you can. Yeah.
कोशिश कर रही हूँ. I'm trying to understand.
I know you have understood it, just your humility. So,
जैसे
yes.
हर जगह मौजूद है पर वो नजर आता नहीं. That's all I can say.
Can you explain to those who don't follow Hindi, please? Because there are few who wouldn't follow as well.
Everybody follows, yeah.
No. From Malaysia, I don't think they'll follow. Lakshmi doesn't follow. Shantima doesn't follow. Mr. Arpit also doesn't follow.
This is just a phrase from a poet who had translated Bhagavad Gita in Urdu language. So that is when Lord Krishna says, he says, I'm present everywhere, but you can't see me. हर जगह मौजूद है पर वो नजर आता नहीं. कर यज्ञ मेरे सामने सर झुका. Says, keep praying. And मेरे सामने सर झुका. Bow down before me.
I told you, she knows so much poetry and so much philosophy, you know. Very nice. Yes, ma. Very true. Very true. Appreciate. So the first two lines, as we said, gives the declaration of the truth, the explanation of the truth, and then the path to the truth. So how do you get to that changeless? How do you, even though you may innately assert it, passively experience it? As Setuji said, Brahman is being noticed unknowingly, but you can't transform yourself passively. You got to advance yourself aggressively, isn't it? Like we are breathing 24 hours in a day, every moment you are breathing, but that passive breathing doesn't give you health. Vasantama, the passive breathing doesn't give you health, isn't it? What gives you health? I'm just drawing an analogy, please. Huh? I know you get what I'm asking.
To breathe consciously, Guruji.
Consciously. What is breathing consciously?
Pranayama.
Do you do pranayama? What is that? Conscious breathing or aggressive breathing, isn't it?
Yes.
Breath by itself doesn't give you vitality. It may give you life, but you may be living a lifeless life. But when you bring about a controlled breath, it gives energy and vitality, isn't it?
Yes.
Now, what's the point we're making here?
To experience Brahman active and the active.
We all need to experience
Active world.
Active perception. We have to put in effort to experience that Brahman which we innately are experiencing, which I already established. How did we say that? Can you just repeat, ma?
Just that when we, you said when a man is in the deathbed, he thinks he's not going to die. Because the self, there is no death for self.
One example we took, that the self is immortal, so he doesn't believe there's death to him. So innately, unknowingly, we see change happening around us as well. We said we don't perceive the change because the tree remains the same tree. You know, every day you look at yourself, you don't change, and yet you have gone through change. What does science say? How long does it take for every cell in the body to be replaced?
I think it
Any
is
idea?
a continuous process.
It is a continuous process, not that suddenly one day everything disappears and new appear, but there's a time frame.
I don't know.
Anybody? How long does it take for the entire cells? RPG, you don't have to do sign language. Boliye.
7 years.
Isn't that too long?
All the cells. I think it's 7 years.
You Googled it just now?
No?
Oh, you knew that. Okay.
I've heard it before.
Okay, now I will double check that after by Googling it.
No,
I
absolutely.
I don't take from certain sources for anything for granted, you know.
I can appreciate that.
Certain sources
And where's my other one you don't trust? He's not here tonight.
No, he must be
Sriniji.
busy. He is busy. He's traveling.
Yeah.
2 people I don't trust.
Right.
But I have my reasons. I can't disclose it all to everybody, but I have serious reasons. You know. So just like that, as you rightly said, maybe it is, I'm sure it is 7 years. You know, every cell in the body gets replaced, but we don't go experience that change.
Right.
So how do we know? Okay, having you on, Arpajina, how do you get to activate your capacity to attune to that Brahman, which is everywhere, all pervading?
So I think it's a process, right? So it's everything that we're learning here, but it's really that taking that time and reflecting on this knowledge and attuning
RPG
to what it's. Yes.
Sorry, I'll have to interrupt here. I want to have your blinkers on. I'm talking in the context of the verse. We're not talking a reflection, manana, etc. There is the changeless in the change because everything is pervaded by Isha, he says. Right. So he has given, declared the truth. What are the 2 things he said? He said, first, he has given the declaration of the truth. Then he has given an explanation of the truth. Now the question is, how do I get to the truth? What is the path to the truth?
So is it an aspect of giving up everything that isn't the truth? So only realizing and seeing that is the only way there is to let everything take up that higher cause and let everything else melt away slowly over time. Renunciation or yeah.
Now you uttered the word. Now comes the 3rd line, the 3rd pada, the 3rd part, which is, he says, may you enjoy through renunciation. Tena tyaktena bhunjidha. So the 3rd line. So the path to get to that truth. How do you get to the truth? There's only one means. He says, tena tyaktena. By that, you enjoy renunciation, tyaktena, by renunciation. Tyaga, renounce. Tyaktena, renunciation. No, renounce what? Wonderful, RPG. Shantima, renounce what?
Hari Om Guruji. Renounce the lower, renounce the one which doesn't take you to the higher.
Very good.
Your desires. Yeah.
Yes. Any further? Go ahead.
Yeah, desires, whichever doesn't take you to the path.
Renounce the lower, renounce that which doesn't take you to the higher, renounce your desires. So renounce, in effect, renounce the world and enjoy the Brahman. Renounce the snake and enjoy the rope. Renounce the illusion and perceive the reality. Renounce the ornaments and enjoy the gold. Renounce the pots and enjoy the clay. Renounce your attachments and enjoy true bliss. So even in a relative sense, what gives you comfort is that spirit of letting go. Just let go. The capacity to drop, the capacity to let go. The problem is we don't have the capacity to let go. I'm reminded of a very, very powerful image. I shared it earlier. Wonderful, Shantima. I've shared it earlier in some context. There was a monkey, a mother monkey, holding on to its dead baby. Its mother, the baby has died, little one had died. As you see in these monkeys, the little ones are holding on, hugging on to the mother. So because the baby was dead, it couldn't cling on, but the mother was holding on to the baby and carrying it everywhere. But as the body started decomposing, you got this, what do you call the maggots? The maggots started eating the corpse, started eating the body. The mother was still holding on to it. Since the mother was clinging on to the baby, the maggots started eating the mother also. And that is when it let go of the baby. Now the question is, everything that you're holding on to is actually causing enormous pain, causing enormous discomfort, yet you're not able to let go. This is what we are saying. Now, letting go is not physical. Letting go is purely mental. It's only mental. In fact, can anyone tell me what is the definition of Satwik renunciation? Somewhere in the earlier satsangs, we did mention of Satwik, Rajasic, Tamasic renunciation. But in two words, can you describe Satwik renunciation? Jibigera Garu, only 2 words, huh? Not more than 2 words.
Just when it is ripen the fruit, the body should live like that. Is like, you know, Mrityunjaya mantra, the same. Mrityunjaya mantra.
Right. Yeah. But in what context are you saying, sir, please?
Satwik renunciation means you have to, all desires fulfilling stage. That is understanding the everything is just. It's not that, you know, striving or toiling or difficulty anything just Satwik says, just like that. It doesn't give any connection that is going to give you a difficulty. When you are leaving the body, it just you happily, without any iota of this and that, is like a nature. It's just passing on. Disconnect just like that. Satwik means it's just not your knowledge, your experiences, all this ultimately to bring that Satwik stage means you are just like that disconnect. It doesn't give any pain or difficulty. That is, I feel that is a Satwik stage.
Right. No, you're not wrong. You're not wrong. Yeah, but I was just trying to bring out the point in this way because it's often misunderstood. When we say let go, everybody thinks in terms of giving up their duties, giving up their dharma, giving up their actions, is to drop things. It is not the question of renouncing. Renunciation is not renouncing things.
That's not the Satwik. That is the
tamasic. Tamasic renunciation. Correct. Right. Wonderful, sir. So as I had saw two words, quite a few comments. If you see, a few comments people have been commenting in two words. So, but I think Vasantama stole the show. So the two words which I was looking at is performing actions. Satwik renunciation is performance of action. So when a man of Satwik renunciation, he lives a life of action. That's important to note. When you compromise, when you sacrifice action, it is not the right renunciation. You renounce the appendages to action and you perform the action. I repeat, you renounce your appendages. The non-essentials of action are renounced and you perform the action. Relatively, you must renounce your rajas and tamas and embrace sattva. Renounce your non-essentials and enjoy the essentials. Like Tingima has said, you relinquish your fruits. Soumyama has said, you renounce your worries, your whatever regrets you have of your past, you renounce that. And then what do? You perform your obligated duties. Typo Lakshmi Ma, it is not renovation in action, it is renunciation in action. We need to go about renovating ourselves, innovating ourselves. It's a very innovative idea of renunciation. I say that. So it's not renouncing action, it is renouncing you're embracing the action with the spirit. So I want you all to seriously ponder, seriously think how you could embrace the spirit of renunciation into your lives. In terms of, I want you all to come and share case studies, some examples, references of your own life, how that spirit of letting go has given you that comfort, has given you that joy, just to see, because we have to experiment these truths. Not that we doubt on them, but to be assured that this is the path we got to adopt. So the moment you embrace life with the spirit of renunciation, there he says there is joy, there's satisfaction, there's comfort. Now, don't misunderstand. Renouncing is not giving up. It is giving up the lower, but you're picking up the higher. So you're renouncing only the non-essentials. So when you renounce the non-essentials, what are the non-essentials? Your worries and anxieties, your fruits, your attachments, your desires. As Shantima said, you renounce the lower, enjoy the higher. Absolute sense. We have to ultimately renounce the illusion and experience the reality. That's a long way to go. But the way to go is to practice renunciation where we are. So I want you all to come with your own experiences. Don't make it sound too personal, but something which you have actually tasted, how that what is the opposite of renunciation, Rajima?
Attachment. The attachment.
Yeah, you could say a person who, yeah, you could say,
or bondage.
Yeah, bondage, attachment, where one leads a life of aggrandizing, chasing, indulging, that kind of a life, So when you had this thought of, wherever the thought of attachment prevailed, what you could be attached to your job, you could be attached to anything, but wherever there is that level of sense of attachment, what are your own experiences? And when you have brought in that spirit of letting go, as I say this right now, you're something you're extremely attached to. And if you're able to inject this principle of letting go, the amount of joy and bliss. Amitama, you're too pensive.
Yes, sir. Well noted, sir. Yes. Yeah.
So these principles have to be profoundly injected so that you are liberated by your self-inflicting sorrow and suffering. The sorrow and suffering one goes through is self-inflicted, isn't it, Ma? It is not external, it's self-inflicted. So what will comfort you is to let go, renounce. It will not make you any less. It will only enrich you. But still, there's always that the threshold you reach and you can't do anything beyond that. Your capacity, then you can't let go. That's where you need to inject this practice. Even though we say you can't practice renunciation, but it's just trying to enthuse you to understand the true glory of it, the true beauty of it. Amitama, can I request you to please renounce your preoccupation?
I was just going to ask, therein lies the $1 million question, that how? Because I think when we come for satsangs like this, conceptually, it's absolutely clear, and also the reason to do it is also very, very clear. But as you go through that journey of your everyday existence, I think that is where the problem is. you know, to being, I mean, you could be successful for maybe a short duration of time, but to make it consistent, to make it part and parcel of, you know, your whole, the whole way of being, I think that's where I feel I'm constantly in a struggle with that. Yeah.
The only solution to that is, if the effort is on, it's not about the result. The effort is on, you will find there's a great satisfaction. It's not a question of falling, as they say. It's a question of how quickly you rise. You don't fall like a lead ball. You fall like a tennis ball or a ping pong ball. You know, you fall and rise.
Bounce back.
You don't fall and stay put there. You know? So if we are able to get back to action and keep doing, you know we got to do that little steady, a little sadhana, you know, a little withdrawal, a little self-control, a little forgiveness. So all of these qualities which really embellish your sadhana being very wholesome, if you just inject these and intensify areas which needs a little more attention. It's like, you know, when they say when something in the body gets ruptured, the forces are rushing to it to mend it. Unknowingly it's happening, isn't it? So when there is some imperfection that comes to the highlight or forefront, your attention should shift more to it to mend it. If you're not able to forgive someone for their doing, you must garner your thoughts so that you're able to draw your wisdom, so that you forgive that person, so that you let go of that worry or anxiety or the burden that that relationship is causing. See, you got to give a certain quality of precedence, but yet you will do your sadhana, you will live a life of self-control, you will do all those things. So it is ever being mindful of what is needed at that moment. You get it? Yeah. But it's the effort now. What gives you comfort is effort. It's not how far or where we have reached, you know, but and the satsang only gives you the assurance, as you rightly said. Right?
Yes, sir.
But I'll assure you, you will enjoy life through renunciation. There's nothing, no greater truth than that. Okay, thank you, Ma. Yes, lastly, Situji. Yes, sir. Thank you.
Hari Om, Guruji.
Hari Om, sir.
I just, you said this renouncing, I have experienced in the past, whenever we communicate, when we talk to others, when there is no hidden agenda, there is no motive in talking, then the communication gets absorbed, it goes easily, and people listen, and people, when I talk to subordinates or team members of different places I have seen. But when the other person also does that way, the communication dances. It is both reciprocate in the spirit, in that spirit that is extraordinary. So I have experienced a couple of times even with strangers. So, but wherever communication is not going through, I'm very sure the other person immediately reads you, that you want to control him or you are advising him. They know, they just shut off. They don't listen. No shravanam.
So in which context?
This is a renouncing in the motive.
Right, I get that. Perfect. Yes, Ji. Absolutely.
Because whenever in an organization I have seen, they always think whatever you say, you have a agenda in that, and you are not. You say something good, but you mean different, and you don't mean what you say. So then it doesn't go. They just listen and casually, and they don't take it seriously. But when sometimes when you really tell genuinely and you mean it, they also get it.
Correct.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Very truly. Right.
It also
Thank
happens
you.
between parents and children very often.
Yes. Yes. Now, before I ask RPG, Ushama has been laughing to herself. We need to know what it is.
Can you hear me, Guruji? Namaste.
Yes, ma. Yes, ma.
It's basically the last part which Setuji said, which struck a chord in me, Guruji, particularly between parents and children. It happens. Or close relationships, you can clearly see that happening. Whereas in case of a corporate or office atmosphere or something, it depends. Sometimes it depends.
Yeah. We clearly see it, isn't it? We clearly see it.
Yes.
I'm also clearly seeing something. I just now noticed it. Ma, does anybody's name appear wisdom? Wisdom in capitals you're putting. We know wisdom is there. We are seeing it. But why are you announcing also to the world wisdom, wisdom, wisdom?
Guruji, I'm totally unaware of it. How it has come also, I'm unaware of it.
Yeah, we know. That's how wisdom is. That's why I say, when you get wisdom, others notice the wisdom. You don't notice it. That is how I'm saying.
Really?
So
really?
it is you're strictly proving us correct that others will notice wisdom.
Actually,
we are noticing it.
I'm not even aware of it. I don't.
No. Just kidding, ma. Right. Yes. Perfect, ma. Perfect. Yeah. But I must say, please continue your lovely smile, ma. Always bring a smile on everybody's face. Thank you, ma. Thank you. Yes, RPG.
Just to follow up on Setuji's point, in particular in business, you may indeed have a motive, right? You have to get something done. Often we find ourselves talking about not what is said, right? Because what is said may need to be at this time, that's what needs to be said, but it's how it's said, right? So if your motive is to sort of poke at that person or reduce them somehow in the eyes of colleagues, or that is the wrong motive. But the motive may be, I need you, or we need you to do this way, or take this particular hill, or whatever it is, right? And so there may be motive in that, but the motive, and this is what I've learned, and we can talk about it, is that if it's for that higher purpose of the organization or the department or whatever, then you should feel justified in having that motive. Because if it's for that higher purpose and it's carried out properly, then I see no reason that you can't have a motive in the purest sense, a pure motive, right? Where you're working for that organization, and you may be working for that individual because they don't see that they need to go down this particular path. Because of your experience, you may have been down that path before and want them to avert something, or not make the same mistake that you made. Anyway, that was my thought. Not disagreeing with Setuji at all, but in business, you may have a motive when you're talking to someone, but no reason to demean them or belittle them at all in the process.
Absolutely, but I'm sure you would also agree that the purer the motive, that makes the entire work divine and very refreshing and
Absolutely.
And that sentiment of that's what Setuji said, that genuinity of having no hidden motives or hidden agenda. You are well communicated and understood, that spirit, that pulse gets communicated, even if it's in a language you don't understand. See, that emotion is to be felt. So it doesn't have to be in as many words as you put it, but it's not what you say, it's how you say, for what you say. So as long as, so the more the motive becomes unselfish and marching towards selflessness is no motive at all. So getting away from selfish motive is what we are all aspiring to. It's not what you do, for what you do it. No, it's not what you say. What is the intention behind it? You may even sometime pull up your subordinate, but you're telling with a genuine intention to correct him. That person receives the right spirit. It's not to prove yourself superior. You could do that, but if you do that, it's instantly felt that that atmosphere is very, very different, isn't it? You may even end up losing a colleague because there's a rupture, you know. And we can what he brought it in, we can actually implement this in our minute-to-minute, day-to-day transactions, so that it really tells we can experience the benefits, isn't it? So, but the Shastras are saying the world is illusion, simply renounce it. Whether you're ready for it or not, you can't go to the master and say, sir, how do I renounce? He'll say, that's your problem. Simply renounce it. So you don't go back to the guru and say, how do I renounce? So just renounce it, drop it. You know, it's not worth holding it, not worth clamoring it. So we'll come back to the verse, to the mantra, and we'll conclude next week. Okay. And in fact, Reddy Garu also has been silently following. He's been privately messaging me. He's in the airport and he has been attending the session. Glad you could join, Reddy Garu. But we'll have to leave it at that. You know. Thank you. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om.